The man was stuck on a cliff edge, too scared to move. Loose sand above him, solid rock below. One wrong move and he'd be smashed to pieces. He was terrified. Fear and helplessness consumed him. Then he had a sudden idea. He seemed to realize something. He started muttering to himself. He was timing the interval between waves hitting the rocks. After confirming a few times, he seized the moment and spun around. He fell into the sea. He didn't die from the fall, but the water was too shallow. His hip slammed into a rock. He blacked out briefly. Luckily, he regained consciousness quickly. He struggled, moving his arms and legs. Mustering his last ounce of strength, he finally surfaced. No time to celebrate surviving. He scrambled to higher ground. He lay on a rock, gasping for air. After a while, the still terrified man finally caught his breath. But then a sharp pain shot through his palm. He realized his right palm had a 10-centimeter gash. It was so gruesome he couldn't bear to look. No matter how severe the injury, he had still cheated death. After composing himself, he got up and prepared to leave. But as he took a step with his left foot, he heard a crack from his waist. He collapsed onto the rock and blacked out. He didn't know how long passed. A wave splashed him awake. He struggled to sit up. A sharp pain shot through his lower back. He quickly checked his condition. Horrified, he saw 2 deep wounds on his left hip. He knew this was bad. He tried to move his body. His legs wouldn't respond. The fall had shattered his hip. The rocks had crushed it completely. He was even losing feeling in his feet. Then he remembered he had a phone, but it had been soaking in seawater too long. It was completely dead. He looked up at the sky helplessly. He started shouting for help, but this place was deserted. Apart from surfing enthusiasts like him, no one ever came here. Getting no response, he took off his shirt and wrapped his wounded hand. Then he looked around for a way out. But escaping was easier said than done. To his left were jagged rocks. To his right was a sheer cliff. Only a small island with a beach lay ahead. Swimming there might be his only chance. After a moment, he decided to go for it. He grabbed his bag and crawled to the rocks. With a flip, he dove into the sea. Dragging his half-paralyzed body, he swam desperately with one arm. But halfway there, something felt wrong. Then his abdomen began to ache. In an instant, he sank underwater. He instinctively screamed for help, but his voice turned into bubbles. He raised his hands to signal for help, but quickly realized only he could save himself. So he paddled like crazy with his left arm. He finally surfaced before drowning, gasping the precious air, but he was completely exhausted. Lack of oxygen caused him to black out. This time, he had no strength left to struggle. He let his broken body sink slowly, until his feet finally touched the sandy seabed. Then, his fiancée suddenly appeared in his mind. She was calling out his name, over and over again. In that critical moment, he was jolted awake. Someone was thinking of him, waiting for him. He couldn't just die here silently. He mustered every last bit of strength. With one final burst, he made it to the surface. But fate wasn't done torturing him yet. Just as he was about to reach the shore, a massive wave came crashing in. He was pulled right back under again. He nearly got slammed brutally into the rocks. In desperation, he tore off his bag and threw it. The strap caught successfully on a rock. He held on for dear life with his wrist. That was what finally saved him. As the tide slowly receded, he was left completely drained of all energy. He hung on the rock, barely alive. But just then, a hungry seagull saw its chance. It pecked a strip of flesh from his wound. The pain jolted him awake. He quickly shooed the bird away. Then he pulled hard to break the strap. He collapsed onto the sand. 36 hours had passed since he fell. He hadn't had a single drop of water. If he didn't get some soon, he'd die of thirst, if not starvation. Just as despair set in, he spotted a soda can in the corner. He reached for it eagerly, but it was filled with seawater, not drinkable at all. He pushed on, enduring the thirst. But after just a couple of moves, a fishhook buried in the sand pierced his arm. He pulled it out slowly, enduring the pain. He was completely broken. Why was he so unlucky? He just came here to surf. He never expected to fall off a cliff. He was still alive, but half his body was paralyzed. But even so, he refused to give up hope. He dragged himself across the sand, searching for anything useful. Soon he found aluminum foil and a cup. Then he dug up a fishing net. After a bit more time had passed, the thirst became absolutely unbearable. He dug a shallow hole in the sand, then lined it carefully with the foil, planning to collect some urine. But his internal injuries were severe. What came out was mostly blood. He couldn't bring himself to drink it. As the temperature dropped, he wrapped himself in foil in the net, but he was still shivering. Then lightning flashed and thunder roared. He quickly set the cup in a good spot. He dug a deeper hole, lined it with foil to catch rain. Then he opened his mouth, eagerly awaiting the rain's arrival. 3 days and nights without water. He was desperately thirsty, but fate played another joke on him. Even though the thunder was deafening, only 2 lonely drops of rain actually fell. From soaring hope to crushing disappointment, he simply couldn't accept such a cruel reality. He grabbed the foil off the ground and frantically licked it, but all he tasted was bitter, gritty sand. He barely managed to survive until dawn. He leaned against a rock, completely motionless. Then a seagull slowly crept closer to him. He gripped the wooden stick tightly in his hand. He quietly opened his eyes a crack. The seagull was already right beside him. It kept getting closer and closer. He raised the stick and brought it swinging down hard. hard, failing to catch the seagull for food. He had no choice but to drag his half-paralyzed body onward. But this beach was utterly barren and desolate. As far as he could see, there was nothing but sand. Even worse, after such a long time of suffering, he still hadn't found any food at all. He had burned through his remaining energy. Just as the man was about to lose all hope, a broken surfboard caught his tired attention. He quickly crawled over to the surfboard. It felt like grabbing onto a lifeline. He cried out in excitement and relief, but then he smiled bitterly and pushed the surfboard aside. Even though he was an expert surfer, able to ride any wave with freedom and grace, his legs were now completely and utterly useless. Forget about surfing. He could barely even crawl anymore. By now, he was completely and totally exhausted. He just lay there on the sand, staring at the endless, rolling waves, waiting for a rescue that might never actually come. He had no idea how long he lay there. Then the tide began to rise. His SOS message in the sand was half washed away. His hip injury grew worse. He felt drowsy and faint. He watched the rolling waves. They were once his proudest stage. Now he could only lie there, helpless. Anger welled up inside him. He'd rather die falling or drowning than lie here, waiting to be choked by shallow water. That thought gave him strength. He grabbed the surfboard and crawled toward the sea. His eyes were filled with determination. He dragged himself forward without looking back. Even as waves kept pushing him back, he never once gave up. The weak are trapped by storms, but the brave never retreat, even before an entire ocean. In the end, the sea surrendered. It could no longer stop him. It sent him onward with gentle waves. He didn't know how long he swam. Then he suddenly stopped. He had no strength left. He couldn't even move a finger. But his heart was no longer afraid. Instead, he felt a peace he'd never known. Soon, he closed his eyes, letting his body sink toward the seabed. When you're no longer afraid to lose, even fate itself will give you a hand. Then a yacht appeared above him. A diver jumped in and pulled him up. Trapped for 48 hours, he was finally saved. After he recovered, he revisited the place with his wife. The memories came flooding back. Anger and sadness mixed, but no fear. And it was those painful experiences that made him stronger.